Most people believe they are losing because they are not smart enough. They think they need better information, better timing, better predictions. But that is not the real problem. The real problem is simpler and much more uncomfortable. Most people are playing the wrong game. They measure success in speed, in excitement, in action. They believe progress should feel busy. They believe effort must look dramatic. And they believe money is made by constantly doing something. Charlie Munger saw the world very differently. He did not try to outtrade the market. He did not try to look smart. And he certainly did not try to impress anyone. Instead, he designed his life around one quiet idea: avoid stupid games. Most people lose not because they lack intelligence. They lose because they put themselves in environments where stupidity is rewarded. Fast decisions, crowded trades, emotional reactions, constant opinions. These are not signs of ambition. They are symptoms of confusion. Munger understood something early. The market does not punish ignorance. It punishes impatience. And impatience is usually disguised as ambition. People say they want freedom, but they build lives that require constant motion, constant validation, constant risk. They chase returns the way gamblers chase losses. One more move, one more trade, one more chance to feel in control. Munger stepped away from that table. He realized that the goal was never to win every round. The goal was to stay in the game long enough for time to do the work. This is where most people get uncomfortable, because playing the right game often looks like doing nothing, waiting while others rush, sitting still while others panic, passing on opportunities that look exciting but offer no margin for error. The modern world calls this laziness. Munger called it discipline. He was not obsessed with growth. He was obsessed with survival. And survival is the foundation of every great fortune. You cannot compound what you do not keep. Most people ask, what stock should I buy? What strategy should I follow? What move should I make next? Munger asked a different question. Which mistakes must I absolutely avoid? That question alone changes the entire game. Because once you stop trying to win fast, once you stop trying to look clever, once you stop trying to keep up with noise, you begin to notice something strange. The world quietly rewards patience, consistency, and restraint. Not immediately, not loudly, but relentlessly. This episode is not about secret stocks. It is not about clever tactics. It is about the silent rules that place some people on the winning side of life, long before the results become visible. And it begins with this truth. If you are losing, it may not be because you are bad at the game. It may be because you chose the wrong one. The world celebrates intelligence, sharp minds, fast thinkers, bold predictions. But intelligence is not what ruins most people. Stupidity does, and not the obvious kind, the quiet kind, the kind that feels reasonable in the moment. Charlie Munger never tried to be the smartest person in the room. He understood something far more useful. It is far easier to avoid stupidity than to consistently perform brilliance. Brilliance requires perfect timing, perfect judgment, and emotional control under pressure. Stupidity requires none of that. It only asks for impatience, ego, and the refusal to say no. Most financial disasters do not come from bad math. They come from bad behavior. Overconfidence after a win, recklessness during excitement, panic during uncertainty. People blow up not because they do not know enough. They blow up because they know just enough to be dangerous. Munger focused his energy on a short list. Do not use leverage you do not need. Do not invest in what you do not understand. Do not follow crowds simply because they are loud. None of these rules are impressive. None of them make headlines. Yet they quietly eliminate most paths to ruin. This is why avoiding stupidity is such a powerful advantage. It is available to everyone, but practiced by very few. Because avoiding stupidity is boring. It means walking away from stories that sound exciting. It means missing out on conversations everyone else is having. It means accepting that you will never be first, and that is deeply uncomfortable for most people. They want action. They want certainty. They want to feel involved. So they trade activity for progress. Munger refused to do that. He believed that the biggest mistakes are rarely dramatic. They are subtle. They feel justified. A small compromise here, a rushed decision there, a little risk added because it worked last time. Then suddenly, the margin for error is gone. And when reality arrives, there is no room left to breathe. Avoiding stupidity creates space, space to think, space to wait, space to survive mistakes without being destroyed by them. This is why Munger's approach looks simple from the outside, but is brutally difficult in practice. It requires humility, the willingness to admit, I do not know, and I do not need to act. Most people cannot tolerate that feeling. They confuse restraint with weakness, silence with ignorance, and patience with fear. Munger knew better. He understood that long-term success is not built by heroic decisions. It is built by consistently avoiding catastrophic ones. The market does not require genius. It requires durability. And durability is born from one habit. Staying away from stupid behavior, even when it looks tempting, even when everyone else is rushing toward it, especially then. Most people believe success comes from saying yes. Yes to opportunities, yes to invitations, yes to new ideas. They fear that saying no means missing out. Charlie Munger believed the opposite. He understood that life is not won by collecting more options. It is won by protecting a few good ones. Every yes has a hidden cost: time, attention, energy, and those costs are rarely visible at the moment of decision. People say yes because it feels safe, because it feels polite, because it feels productive, but most yeses quietly dilute focus. Munger's strength was not intelligence. It was selectivity. He knew that opportunity is not rare. Good opportunity is, and great opportunity is extremely rare. So he trained himself to say no, not occasionally, but relentlessly. No to ideas outside his understanding, no to deals that required perfect conditions, no to anything that did not offer a wide margin for error. This made him look slow, unambitious, even outdated. But it gave him something most people never have: clarity. When you say no to almost everything, the few things you say yes to stand out with terrifying clarity. Most people are overwhelmed not because life is complicated, but because they refuse to eliminate. They carry too many projects, too many strategies, too many half-decisions, and eventually, they exhaust themselves trying to manage complexity they created. Munger avoided that trap. He simplified his world until only the essentials remained. This is uncomfortable because saying no feels like standing still, and standing still feels dangerous in a world obsessed with motion. But motion is not progress. Busy people are often running from one thing: the discomfort of choosing. Choosing means committing, and committing means accepting trade-offs. Munger accepted them early. He understood that success is not about doing more, it is about doing fewer things, better, longer. This is why his results look unfair in hindsight. While others scattered their attention, he concentrated. While others chased variety, he waited for quality. And while others burned energy trying to keep up, he conserved it for moments that truly mattered. Saying no is not a limitation. It is a filter that removes noise, reduces error, and protects what actually compounds. In the long run, the people who win are not those who say yes the fastest. They are the ones who say no the most intelligently. Patience is often misunderstood. People think patience means waiting, doing nothing, standing still. But that is not how Charlie Munger saw it. To him, patience was not passive. It was strategic. Most people experience time as pressure. They feel rushed by it, threatened by it. They want results now, proof now, validation now. So they trade the future for relief in the present. Munger did the opposite. He treated time as an ally, a quiet partner that worked in the background. He understood something most people never fully accept. Time rewards those who do not interrupt it. Every unnecessary decision breaks compounding. Every emotional reaction resets the clock. People think activity speeds things up. In reality, it often slows everything down. Munger waited, not because he lacked options, but because he respected asymmetry. He waited for situations where the downside was limited and the upside could quietly grow for years. This kind of patience feels unnatural. It requires sitting with uncertainty, watching others move faster, and resisting the urge to participate. Most people cannot tolerate that silence. They need motion to feel alive. They need action to feel in control. So they trade long-term advantage for short-term comfort. Munger refused that trade. He knew that the biggest gains in life do not come from frequent decisions. They come from a few correct ones, given enough time. Patience turns small advantages into overwhelming ones, not because the advantages are large, but because they are uninterrupted. This is why impatience is so expensive. It forces people to restart again and again, always busy, never compounding. Munger's patience gave him something rare, the ability to wait without anxiety. He was not calm because he was confident. He was calm because he had structured his life to avoid urgency. No leverage forcing decisions, no lifestyle demanding constant growth, no ego needing constant proof. This made his patience durable. Time did not just work for him, it protected him. While others were exhausted by short cycles, he stayed fresh for long ones. And in a world addicted to speed, that alone became a weapon, because the greatest opportunities often appear quietly and disappear slowly. Only the patient notice them. Most people treat knowledge like a trophy. They want to know a little about everything: markets, trends, industries, opinions. But knowing a little is not the same as understanding deeply. Charlie Munger never tried to sound knowledgeable about everything. He focused on something far more practical, knowing exactly where his understanding stopped. This is what the Circle of Competence really is. Not a list of skills, not a resume, but a boundary, a clear line between what you understand deeply and what only feels familiar. Most people get into trouble because they confuse familiarity with competence. They read headlines, they hear confident voices, they recognize names, and they assume understanding. Munger knew that this illusion is dangerous because once you step outside your circle, you lose your margin of safety. Inside the circle, mistakes are survivable. Uncertainty is manageable. Outside it, even small errors can be fatal. This idea goes far beyond investing. Careers collapse the same way. Relationships fail the same way. Lives become unstable the same way. People say yes to roles they do not understand, commit to paths they cannot sustain, build lifestyles that require skills they do not yet have. Then they are surprised when pressure breaks them. Munger avoided this by being brutally honest with himself. He did not ask, "Can I figure this out eventually?" He asked, "Do I already understand this well enough to survive mistakes?" If the answer was no, he walked away. This honesty looks limiting, but it is actually freeing, because once you accept your boundaries, you can operate with confidence inside them. You stop pretending, you stop guessing, you stop relying on luck, and luck is a terrible foundation for long-term success. Munger expanded his circle slowly, over decades, not patience for patience's sake, but because deep understanding cannot be rushed. Each expansion was earned, tested, lived through. This is why his decisions look calm. They were made on familiar ground. Most people live their lives constantly outside their circle. They improvise careers, speculate with money, and hope confidence will cover gaps in understanding. It rarely does. Munger's approach was quieter. Build a small territory you truly understand, protect it, and let time strengthen it. Within that territory, decisions become simpler, risk becomes clearer, and progress becomes sustainable. The circle of competence is not a cage, it is a foundation, and strong foundations do not need to be large, they need to be solid. Most people treat knowledge like a trophy. They want to know a little about everything: markets, trends, industries, opinions. But knowing a little is not the same as understanding deeply. Charlie Munger never tried to sound knowledgeable about everything. He focused on something far more practical, knowing exactly where his understanding stopped. This is what the circle of competence really is. Not a list of skills, not a resume, but a boundary, a clear line between what you understand deeply and what only feels familiar. Most people get into trouble because they confuse familiarity with competence. They read headlines, they hear confident voices, they recognize names, and they assume understanding. Munger knew that this illusion is dangerous, because once you step outside your circle, you lose your margin of safety. Inside the circle, mistakes are survivable. Uncertainty is manageable. Outside it, even small errors can be fatal. This idea goes far beyond investing. Careers collapse the same way. Relationships fail the same way. Lives become unstable the same way. People say yes to roles they do not understand, commit to paths they cannot sustain, build lifestyles that require skills they do not yet have. Then they are surprised when pressure breaks them. Munger avoided this by being brutally honest with himself. He did not ask, "Can I figure this out eventually?" He asked, "Do I already understand this well enough to survive mistakes?" If the answer was no, he walked away. This honesty looks limiting, but it is actually freeing, because once you accept your boundaries, you can operate with confidence inside them. You stop pretending, you stop guessing, you stop relying on luck, and luck is a terrible foundation for long-term success. Munger expanded his circle slowly, over decades, not patience for patience's sake, but because deep understanding cannot be rushed. Each expansion was earned, tested, lived through. This is why his decisions look calm. They were made on familiar ground. Most people live their lives constantly outside their circle. They improvise careers, speculate with money, and hope confidence will cover gaps in understanding. It rarely does. Munger's approach was quieter. Build a small territory you truly understand, protect it, and let time strengthen it. Within that territory, decisions become simpler, risk becomes clearer, and progress becomes sustainable. The circle of competence is not a cage, it is a foundation, and strong foundations do not need to be large, they need to be solid. Most people spend their lives searching for advantages, better strategies, faster methods, smarter shortcuts. They believe winning requires something dramatic, but the most powerful advantages are rarely visible. Charlie Munger understood this better than almost anyone. He did not chase brilliance. He did not compete in crowded arenas. And he did not rely on intensity to carry him forward. Instead, he built a life that quietly removed the ways people lose. He avoided stupidity. He said no to most things. He stayed inside his circle of competence. He let time work without interruption. And he showed up consistently. None of this looks impressive in the moment. There are no headlines for patience, no applause for restraint, no celebration for doing nothing. But over decades, these quiet choices accumulate into something powerful. An unfair advantage, not unfair because it is secret, but unfair because so few people are willing to practice it. Most people want progress without boredom, returns without waiting, success without sacrifice. They want the outcome without structure that produces it. Munger accepted a harder truth. That long-term success is built on decisions that feel uncomfortable today and invisible tomorrow. He understood that freedom does not come from constant opportunity. It comes from simplicity, from fewer decisions, lower stress, and a wide margin for error. This is why his life looked calm while others looked busy. He was not racing, he was compounding. And compounding rewards those who stay alive long enough for it to matter. The world often tells you to move faster, to act now, to keep up. Munger quietly ignored that noise. He chose durability over excitement, direction over speed, and survival over status. These choices do not feel heroic, but they work. Not just in investing, in careers, in relationships, in life itself. If there is one lesson to carry forward, it is not how to win big. It is how to avoid losing badly. Because once you stop destroying your own progress, time will do the rest. The path may look slow, it may look ordinary, and it may look boring. But over a lifetime, it leads somewhere very few people ever reach. Quietly, relentlessly, and unfairly.